Wilderness. Hope you guys are doing good today. It is extremely smoky here in northern Idaho. There we go. It's fighting with me. Okay, so it's been a wild couple days here. I had such a fabulous opportunity yesterday, and I was so excited about it. I was invited to go to church with the mountain boy, and I took him up on that opportunity because he was craving some quality time, and he wanted to take me to lunch to thank me for all that I've been helping him with his schooling, and to be able to spend that time uninterrupted and being able to talk. So that was a very valuable offer to me, and I was just so excited by that. So that is exactly what I did yesterday. Good afternoon, Miss Shelley. And his church up in the Spokane area is just doing some amazing things. They are doing a tent revival the end of July, and it is I'm gonna grab my bag. Hang on a second, because I brought the flyer home so I could share it with you guys. So tell me how you guys are doing and what is new with you. And I think I saw Miss Shelley jump on, and I think there's a couple others. Hopefully I don't send everything a-sailing here. Whew. Okay. I want to give you accurate information because this is like super cool. So if you are in Washington, and it's smoky. It's like just catching my breath right now, and I have most of the windows closed. Wow, there we go. Send that sailing. Sorry, yeah, you did. You got an armpit shot. Sorry about that. Hello, Miss Deb. Hello, Miss Shelley says, I'm hiding from the heat. It is way too hot in the sun for me. There is no sun. Our power is doing amazing just because it's so bright, but there's no sun. The sun is not making it through the smoke, so it's pretty darn crazy. It is a big tent revival Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, July 28th, 29th, and 30th. They will have free groceries and clothing while supplies last, and they're bringing healing to the hurting and oppressed, seeking answers in today's world. And if you are interested in going to that, it is at 1504 West Grace Avenue, Spokane, Washington. And it is, I'm going to just put this on the screen so that you guys can see it. Is it backwards or right side up? Because I'm seeing backwards, so I'm hoping, there we go, never mind. I can see that you are seeing it in the appropriate way. So there is the information. Don't miss out on this. This is just so awesome. They had baptisms yesterday outside in the swimming pools that they set up. It was just really awesome. And their pastor is just, he's very cool, very outgoing, very vibrant. Their music was awesome. Really enjoyed myself. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because this is just huge. There'll be live music, and all are welcome. So it is just, the pastor's wife is just so excited because she's wanted to do this for years, and the opportunities and doors open so they are able to do this. So very awesome. Okay. You guys are telling me that was right. Shelley says, we do not have any smoke here. Lots of sun, and it has been over a month since we have had any rain. I don't even know the last time we have had rain. It is just so dry here. So dry. Good afternoon, Miss Tammy. So today's title is Heavy Smoke, Fire, and Burnout. I'm going to be honest. I'm feeling burnout. I'm like super tired. I was driving on Friday, and I drove yesterday. I had to run an errand this morning, and I am just feeling the effects of burnout. So after I'm done on here, I'm actually going to take a nap, and I am very looking forward to that. But how are you guys doing? Did you guys do anything special this weekend? And how many of you are still joining me on the 5 minutes a day, reading your Bible, spending time with God and doing your journal. I'd really love your feedback on that. Miss Deb says, picked up dogs and came right downstairs to be cool in our 100 degree heat. Yeah, it is just warm. It's very warm here too. We did have, Friday was cooler, but yesterday it was hot again. Actually, it was Saturday that was cooler. It's all running together, but we are back up in the high heat again. And then this coming week, the rest of this week is supposed to be in the 80s, but we shall see. Shelly says, Saturday I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. I think it's all the smoke, because I had a class before this, and it's like I could just feel it draining me, but I could also just feel the heavy smoke coming in here. I mean, you need air flowing, but I mean, it is so thick. I don't know if you guys saw the picture for this, and I can't get up to show you because I'm boxed in here with dogs, but it is, you can see trees that are close by, but beyond that, you can't see anything after that. So it's really, really alarming. It's really not good for our health. But I'm curious to know how many of you are still joining me on my journey for this year. And I would love some feedback. How many of you carry a date book? I carry a date book. I carry my date book with me when I leave the house, if I'm going to an appointment, okay? I use my phone and keep a running journal of things that I think of when I'm out in the woods and stuff like that, or on my walk. And then I come back and those all get transferred to my date book. I also have my journal, which I keep and do daily. And I've tried to do it all on my phone, but it gets so cumbersome, and I know and have realized that I really like to see things in front of me, and I like to be able to write things down. It helps me to keep a better handle on things. And one of the things that causes burnout is when we are like so overstimulated with the processes that we are doing in our homes and on our homestead. You know, like when you're just trying to keep track of all your family's affairs, it can be overwhelming at times because there's a lot to keep track of. Each other's schedules, the bills, the cooking, the food that needs to be purchased. There's a lot of things that need to go on. So Shelly says, my date book is in front of the computer as I take my blood pressure off and on to keep track of it. I put all my appointments on my phone and in that date book. Okay, so how many of you would be excited if you had a date book and your journal all in one place? Would that be something that would make life easier, or do you like having those things separate? Just curious. Just getting some feedback today. And I hope you guys are staying hydrated. I've actually started using my water app again just to keep me on track. That big ball canning jar that I use with the lid, that's like 50 some ounces. So that takes a considerable chunk out of what I need to drink in a day. So that makes it a lot easier. But I love coconut water and was out yesterday and was able to get some good stuff. So I was excited. Nice to have a change of pace. I have struggles drinking just straight water. So just curious about your feedback on that. And I wanted to share with you, I knew there was something else and it just totally left me. For those of you that are near wildfires, you can go to TrayerWilderness.com/wildfires near me, and it will help you to locate the different fires that are closest to you. You can set it to notify you and enable so many mile radius around you so that you're alerted. So I highly recommend that. Shelly says, I think if I was going to journal, I would want them together, and I would only like to write a little here and there to keep track of health and walking, etc. Okay. So Tammy says, I keep the date book and the journal separate. Okay. Yeah, for right now, I do the same. And the journal is just not something that I'm really willing to put into a digital format, because that's one of the last things I have to really put pencil to the paper. Plus, a lot of times when I'm doing that, I start doodling and drawing, and I enjoy that very much. That's one of the positive things on my list. Deb says, I can remember when I used to keep track and plan when written down. Been a long time. Do some on my phone. Need to be more consistent. Yeah, consistency certainly helps in obviously creating habits. I've always done paper for my date book, and then I did and turned everything into digital, but I found it, I don't want to say overwhelming, but I felt at a loss. Like, I like to be able to search for things on my phone, and that part's easy. However, I like to be able to see things in front of me. So I've switched completely to a planner back on paper. I've been doing that since I was 18. And although it was good to do the trial and error and experiment, it was good to analyze it, because now I know that I enjoy having the calendar in writing in a book. And what's nice with that too is the mountain man joins in and looks through that or adds to that, and he can do it himself instead of having to tell me to do it. So, and he can also keep track of things and look to see what's on our schedule. So I do like that a lot. And that's also a way of training him. I say that jokingly, but it's nice to be able to have a schedule. My struggle sometimes is I am very schedule and regimented oriented. It's in my makeup, but I also like to be spontaneous. So how do you find that in-between time where you are scheduled but also have time to be spontaneous? You schedule it in. I schedule like an hour or two in my day that enables me to be spontaneous and do the things I want to do. And that kind of keeps me fulfilled. Because it's hard, because I find that when I'm more spontaneous and fly by the seat of my pants, I'm not nearly as productive. So by being able to record things and do things like that, and also schedule in times for spontaneity, the other thing that's important is scheduling time in for self-care. But when you schedule spontaneity and self-care into your day, it really makes a big difference in being able to get a handle on things, keep yourself in a good place, and avoid burnout. I know that the burnout I'm feeling is just from being away from the homestead so often and for such periods of time, and driving, and the smoke. The smoke is just making me really tired. So under normal circumstances, I probably wouldn't feel this drained, but it's just a combination of things. But it's always good to take time to analyze our processes, analyze how we're doing things, and analyze what works and what doesn't work for us to eliminate us all from hitting a level of burnout. Many of us work from home and are homesteading or living off grid. So, having a plan and a schedule as to how you do things. Deb is always moving your irrigation pipes, and it has a process there as far as how she's doing things on her homestead. And it's important that you learn to do that and get yourself into a good regimented schedule, because it really helps to eliminate burnout. It keeps us on track, and it gives us an opportunity to see what's working and what isn't working as far as how we schedule ourselves. So I just wanted to put that out there today and also get a little bit of your feedback. This is probably not going to be a long one today, because I was just on an hour and a half class. So I'm pretty tapped, but I wanted to spend time with you guys and give you guys some projects, maybe, sort of. How many of you struggle with keeping a good plan and coming up with a good schedule, or maybe creating new habits in your life? How many of you guys struggle with that? Because that can really be a struggle. The other struggle can be keeping track of everybody else's schedule. And right now on here at this exact moment, the person that pops in my mind is Miss Tammy, because she's got a very large family. So Tammy, are there any things that you can share that have worked for you in keeping track of a lot of people at one time? Or do you give them the responsibility of keeping track of things? I'm just curious. And I figure it might be some good feedback. Deb says I can remember. Oh, I did read that one. Good afternoon, Keith. Actually, it's probably morning for you. He says, beautiful sunny day here in God's zone. It's very, very smoky here, but it's all right. It's bright enough that we're getting good solar. I got to share a funny with you guys. I was speaking with someone, and they made a comment to me that I thought was very funny in analyzing how the mountain boy must be living in an apartment versus living wildly in the wilderness. And I thought that was a very funny interpretation of what our life is like, because it wasn't like the mountain boy was living wildly in the wild. He lived in a home. And after sharing that with the mountain boy yesterday, one of the things that we established was that it's really no different in that he was living in a home here, he's living in a home there, but they have more power outages and struggles with power than he did here. And it's just kind of funny. Plus, the overwhelm of all the people and things there compared to being here where it was simple and free. So it's kind of funny. I wanted to share that with you guys. I just thought that was kind of funny, because our off-grid life, people get confused at how different it is from everyday living. But so often we have power when everyone else doesn't. So it's just kind of funny. Plus, we do live in a house. We're not in a cave. It might be tiny. Tammy says, I use my planner to write down for work schedules, since it helps me know when I have the grandsons, and for supper plans. I make a meal plan, sometimes a month at a time, sometimes a week. Okay. And do your other house, like the kids, let me see, when I'm out and set an appointment, I put it on my phone calendar and write it in the planner when I get home. Yeah, so having a plan in place, I get tired. I'm not one to carry like a purse and carry stuff with me. My phone makes it very convenient to keep track of things, and I do the same thing. Workflowy tends to be one of the things that I use, which is a link down below, where I record like the things I need to get on my errands. I'm also very regimented. I hate wasting time. So when I run an errand and I have to make several stops, I make a loop so that I'm going in the order that they are available to me, and then loop back so that I'm not wasting time going here and there and here and there. I loop it. That might be OCD, I don't know. But I do that so that I'm not wasting time and I can get back as quickly as I can. I also use that because I keep a running grocery list on there, and when there's things I need, if I get them, I can swipe to the right and it will strike through it, so I know that I found it, and I can keep doing that. Well, then when I come home, I can leave the strike throughs on there, but as I start needing things again, I can do it again, and it removes the strike through, and then I know I need to get that again. And I don't have to keep re-entering all my groceries. I can just keep doing that and getting what I need and having it handy. I'm all about having processes in my life that make things easy, and that I put processes in place so I'm not constantly repeating myself and wasting time. So that's how and why I use Workflowy. And then Evernote I use to keep track of long-term things that I want there and that are searchable, like car insurance. I scan my business cards in there, but I don't have to keep them handy, so they're in there. I just try to make life as easy as possible, and that in and of itself eliminates burnout, because when you constantly are redoing things or spending time searching for things because you can't remember where you put them, I hate that. And when I was sick, I didn't have time for that, so I really revamped things so I can't do that. And I even have a note, I think it's titled those things that I wasn't supposed to forget that I might, those things that I won't forget that. Where you place something, I just jot it in there anyway, so that if I do forget it, I can refer back to it. So I actually have a note for that. It's smart. That way we're not wasting time. Shelly says, I heard that California is asking people not to charge their electric cars due to the energy demands due to the heat. That did not take long to happen. So how are they going to get to places? I'll tell you what, the whole concept of electric cars from the get-go has absolutely cracked me up. If you could see where we live and how far away things are, I mean, there's like no plug. And what happens when it breaks down? Even if you are in the city, you're going to have to ask somebody to use their power. It's just really funny to me. I just don't understand that concept. Maybe a solar car, but even then, what happens on the cloudy days, you know? I don't know. It just really cracks me up. Now, if it's driving and it has an alternator, it should keep charging the battery, so you shouldn't have to charge it. I don't get it. I just think it's really funny. And that's been a big thing, Shelley, in Spokane, is that a lot of the, what do you call them? Resistors on the poles have been blowing up because so many people are using the air conditioners all at once and it's overloading the power. So, you know, our grid is not near as reliable as everybody seems to think. And Austin shared with me yesterday that his rent's going to go up, or he's going to have an additional fee this month to help cover the electric bill because there's air conditioners in every room. So it's going to be something. And yeah, this is just crazy. Miss Deb says, that is totally the way I drive. So errands and most anything. I was a pro delivery driver, UPS. Yep, and FedEx. Yep. And Airborne Express, and had to be efficient. Yeah, it's like I try to be efficient in absolutely everything I do. And, you know, that takes analysis sometimes. It takes trial and error to figure out what the best way is to do things so that it goes the smoothest. And then, you know, not being stuck on those things entirely, because some days there is another way to do something, or someone else might have a better idea that works dependent on the circumstances. But to get processes and plans in place on in your home or on your homestead is extremely important. The way I equivalent it is that when you have a process in place, it removes you from the hamster wheel. Because so often we're stuck in that hamster wheel doing nonsense stuff and doing things inefficiently. So when you can do things in an efficient way, it makes a huge, huge difference. So let me see here. Good afternoon, Miss Jane. Miss Jane. We got Miss Laura in the house. Tammy says, my biggest struggle is having the time to do the planning for things. Yeah, I'll cover that in a second. Shelley says, hello to Laura, still walking every morning. Awesome. I am so glad to hear that. Everybody's saying hello to each other. Laura says, I used to take pictures of where I parked so I wouldn't lose my vehicle. Well, funny you say that, because we now have a new vehicle. So the mountain man and I ran out to do errands the other day, and we're both like, wow, we got to retrain ourselves to be looking for a different vehicle now. And very true. That's something that I'm usually pretty good at. But you have those moments, and then you have a new vehicle, and it adds to it. But that's funny, and that's smart. If you struggle with that, that is a smart way to do it. I love that you guys are all saying hello and loving up on each other. Miss Jane says, I had a man setting my cameras on my side yard, a Vista marking utilities for a new fiber optic. I have seen nothing from the city on any of this, but they've been ripping up the city for months. Interesting. You'd almost wonder what they're up to if it's since Avista didn't share anything. Shelley says, I lived in Ontario and the power was out because the grid went down along the eastern U.S. coast and Ontario. Not fun, and I could not have gone long as we had just moved. Yeah, it's difficult going without power. I'm very grateful for how we live and how minimally we live. It just makes it that much easier, for us anyway. Not everybody could go without, but I'm very in my element, and I'm very right where I am happy. I feel very blessed to be right here. Miss Mill has joined us. Awesome. You guys are all saying hello. So, okay, so Miss Tammy said, Miss Carol is in the house too. Awesome. What time is it? It's like midnight, girl. let me see. So Miss Tammy said she had struggles finding time to plan. And that is really true. I find that throughout my day, as I'm putting things in the calendar and I'm thinking of things, more kind of gets shuffled. But every night I make it a point to just review things before I head off to bed. Make sure I've got everything accounted for the current day, and then look ahead at the next day to see where we're at, what I need to do, how it impacts me in the early morning, because I really try to guard my early morning hours. Excuse me. In my early morning hours, I like to do my writing. I like to get out for a walk because it's cooler. I like to do my stretching and lifting at that time as well, because I know if I wait till the end of the day, I end up being oftentimes too exhausted, and I don't want to go that route. So I want to make sure that they get in my day, so I kind of guard my early morning hours. So by checking my calendar the night before, and then also writing in my gratitude journal first thing, and looking at my calendar next thing, is really important to me. Emails can be a real drag. I used to check my emails all the time, and honestly it drove me nuts, but I was afraid I was going to miss something. And I want to put that into perspective. Before we had email, the thing that we had was the written letter, and somebody stuck it in the mail, and it could take a while to get it, but you at least had, say, 4 days. So now somebody emails you and they expect an immediate response. And, that's another really good bunny trail that you could get on and be totally consumed and totally inefficient. So years ago already, when I realized that I was, being stuck in my email way too much throughout the day, and that things weren't usually that extremely important. Like with Austin's schooling, there are some things I need to look for, but when I know I need to look for them, I'll look for them. I don't get stuck checking everything else. But I check my emails once, at the most twice a day. And that has alleviated a lot of burnout and just getting in places of unproductivity. So, and I don't know about you guys, I get a lot of business emails, and we have multiple businesses, so it does tend to be something that I need to check. So I don't know how you guys do that with personal emails, but if you get stuck in that place, it's not a necessity. Miss Carol says, I was sorting paperwork, Law. Hope all you guys are good. We are really good, and I'm glad you're here. So you're multitasking, which is good also. Laura says, praises. We got 1/8 of an inch of rain this morning. Hubby ran the generator so we could have a day of coolness inside. Dinner is on the grill outside. Awesome. Sounds like a good day. I'm actually using my swamp box right now, and that does a pretty nice job of keeping it cool in here. I'm only using water in that and not ice. I have 2 of them. One runs here and the other one runs over at the table at my work spot. They work pretty good, but it's kind of like stagnant today and humid. So I didn't turn the generator on. I try to conserve as much as I can, but it is nice when you can have the generator run for a little bit and change the air quality as well as the temperature for a little while. That's always nice. And I am having a nice light salad this evening, and of course the mountain man gets meat and potatoes. That's a necessity, but I'm eating lighter and I feel so much better. Shelley says, my brother has traveled to New Zealand. He stayed in hostels, and his one night he spent in a night in jail. The room he was assigned was the old jail. Lol. Oh, that's pretty funny. Now, Keith is in New Zealand, so what part of New Zealand was he in? I'm just fascinated. I would love to travel overseas and to just see things. Tammy says, I check emails once a day at 4:30 a.m. Anything after that waits for the next day. Yeah, so when you get those processes in place and you're not constantly, like social media is a good example. You get on there to check one thing, and, next thing you know, you're on there for 45 minutes. I limit all of that so that I can be productive. If I want to check things on there, I make myself a note to check it later, and when it won't matter so much if I squirrel. But even then, I don't like to squirrel. So Carol says, it sounds yummy, Laura. Yeah, we're going to do it again to you, aren't we, Carol? It's way past bedtime, and we're going to start talking food, right? Laura says, I spend most of my email time deleting and unsubscribing. I hear that. I like having my email zeroed out so that there's not a lot of garbage in there. And I did take a period where I went through and did the same thing. It's nice to get it back on track because it's very easy for it to get overwhelming and out of hand. Let me see here. Keith says, best hunting and fishing in the world, Shelly. I believe that. Based on the stuff you sent, I totally believe that. That's like so wild. Pun intended. Space Girl says, oh yeah, meatloaf with roasted turnips and carrots. Yum. That sounds very, very yummy. Shelly says, we live on an island also, Keith, so there's good fishing here also. So what are the fish that you guys are usually catching? I know that there's seasons also, but what is the fish that you typically go after? Both of you. Would love to hear. Carol says, I'm eating donuts with my cup of tea. Mill says, making my favorite tacos. Yum, yum, yum. We made our vegetable chili the other day. I think we made that on Thursday, and it lasted through yesterday. It was a big pot, and it's so good. It's you put ground meat of some sort. You can use turkey, chicken. We used elk, and it was wonderful. I like to use marinara sauce in that because it just makes it so much more flavorful. And then you just cut up lots of veggies, your yellow squash, your zucchini, celery. You do put beans in it, but I don't put your typical kidney beans in. I'll put like black-eyed peas and garbanzo beans and different types of beans in there, and then just season it. But that's one of our favorites for the summertime because it's a little lighter, and it's just, I love using fresh vegetables. Let's see. Shelly says, I try to go through all of my emails every month to delete as much as possible, but there are some things I like to keep for reference. Yeah, and certain people give really informative information, but they hammer your email box, so you end up with so many emails, and there's just absolutely no time to read them. So I archive those because I see the topics, and if I need something on those topics, I can go back and review. So I do keep certain people I follow, I keep their information archived. Laura says, oh, Carol, I haven't had a donut in almost 2 years. I know. I can't tell you the last time I had a donut. But up at Austin's place, it's really cool. He's got a really eclectic-looking bookstore right at the end of his block. And he's got is it called the Donut Factory or the Donut Mill? Donut Factory, I think it is. But it's the building itself is an old brick building, and they split it, and it's just a really unique looking building. And I asked Austin if he smells the donuts every day when they're baking, and he said he doesn't, but he has had them. That one of the guys at the other house would get them all the time. I can only eat the ones I make, so it really limits it when I'm out. I can't eat what I see, although sometimes it's really tempting, but I'm not going to punish myself. So Shelly says, all sorts of salmon, trout in the lakes, oysters and clams, and the side benefit of Jim shucking oysters for a living is the waste product of scallops that we cook with bacon. Oh gosh, scallops are one of my favorites, as well as bacon. I love scallops, and I love seafood, so that's always a treat when we can get salmon. We have trout here in the river, and there's also oh my goodness, I just went blank. It'll come to me. And we do actually have scallops, or not scallops, oysters in the river as well. So in an emergency situation, those would be edible. Jane says, meatloaf sounds good. I'm having broccoli. Yum. You know, it's really funny, but I can eat a whole meal of just vegetables and be so happy. Key says we have everything here, even wild salmon, but snapper is our best sea fish. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I used to, I had the opportunity to go deep sea fishing for blues and snappers, and oh goodness, the blues were my favorite. I love mahi also. That's just something that I get very, like, every couple years or something if the opportunity arises. Carol says, Laura, love them loads of jam in the middle with tons of sugar on the outside. I love them. Absolutely no good for me, but oh well. Shelly says we have halibut, ling cod, snapper, and rock cod. Nice. Halibut's good too. I actually like that a lot. Some people don't like that, but I like that a lot. Jane says, I had red beets 3 days in a row last week, peeing red for days. I believe it, but they're so good. Those are my favorite, one of my favorite vegetables. I love red beets. The nice thing is too, is when your body is getting healthy and you're eating extremely healthy, you start to crave what your body needs. When you're eating junk, you crave the junk because your body is on a high looking for sugar and garbage. But when you get healthy, the opposite, you know, the same applies, that you're craving the good stuff, and it's typically what your body needs. So I like being in this place. Right, Laura? I can picture it. My girlfriend freaked out one time because she thought that she had a health issue when I got her hooked on fresh grown red beets. When you eat the canned red beets, it's not near as drastic. When you eat the fresh red beets, then it's drastic. Carol says, my favorite fish is playas or lemon sole. I love scallops. I do them in a Cointreau cheese sauce. Yummy. Yeah, now I'm starting to get hungry. Hey, Miss Kelly. She is on here, and she is saying it's 105 there today. I believe it. Our temps pick back up, and as the day is going on, it's getting hotter, but it is like so incredibly smoky. Jane says, my hubby picked up cupcakes, turnovers, and cookies from a friend who owns a bakery here. I have not touched it. He'll eat it all and gain nothing. Isn't that terrible? Oh, my dad was like that. My dad could eat all that junk and he wouldn't gain a pound. All I'd have to do is look at it and my butt would get big instantly. That's so funny. Yeah, I've sworn off of all that stuff. I will make that stuff for myself and then I can eat it. But anything store-bought, I refuse, because the repercussions of what I would deal with is just not worth it. Shelly says, for a few years, I worked at the local seafood processing plant in the vacuum pack area. Candied salmon was so good. And when it was for the company, we had to taste test every now and again. That sounds like a horrible thing to have to do that. I love smoked salmon. Oh my goodness. Smoked anything, really. Kelly says, fresh halibut, fresh from Alaska. My dad went to AK twice and spoiled us. Yeah, there's no different. I mean, there's no comparison, I should say. That's what I was trying to say. There is no comparison when you see and have the difference of fresh fish like that. You can even see it, that it's the fresh salmon is so red and so yum. Yum, yum, yum. Jane says, sugar junkie. Yeah, I stay so far away from sugar. It just doesn't do me well. Every once in a while, I'll allow myself, but I typically stay away from it. Kelly says, I agree. It's totally not worth it. Sugar extreme. Yeah, and then, you know, you pay the price for all of that stuff. So, yeah, no thank you. Some people don't have the willpower with stuff like that, but once you learn how it is so drastic of a punishment for me, and it goes on for days, that it's just not worth it. So I have found replacements for all those things, and in doing so, it has blessed me greatly. Laura says, yeah, Jane, my hubby will eat all the treats and still lose weight. He eats 3 meals a day and loses weight. I eat 1 meal a day and maybe I stay the same way. Right. Homesteaders. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm like reading everything. Like I said, I'm a little whooped today. Kelly says, makes me sick for days. Yeah, me too. It's just not worth it. And she says, I can tell when Courtney cheats. Her face tells us. She breaks out. Yeah, it's just not kind. It's very punishing at times. Laura, one thing that you triggered when you said that is sometimes we are not eating enough to kick our metabolism in. So finding that balance of where is good and where is bad, because I feel so much better when I don't eat a whole lot. But I've also found that I have to eat a certain amount to keep my metabolism flowing. Because if you don't, you're basically putting your body into starvation mode. But the more you become in tune with your body, the better off you'll be in general. And when you can do that and find that perfect spot, and you've also got to keep this in mind. These go hand in hand. With what I just said, you've also got to realize that if you are doing that all the time and you're never changing that at all, you put yourself into a plateau space. So every so often I will allow myself to have a little bit of sugar, or I'll eat a little more than I would normally. But so consistency is good, but you've also got to throw little rewards in there to keep you from plateauing as well. That's why I don't diet anymore at all. I just pay really close attention and I eat really clean. Jane says, I ate eggs on Saturday, felt sick for the rest of the weekend, burping sulfurish. Ugh, that ain't no fun. So are you allergic to eggs, or is it just a reaction you have to the eggs? It almost sounds like an allergy. Shelly says, I know, watching the sugar for sure. It makes me feel bad. Found some gluten-free cookies without sunflower, and boy, are they a treat. So it's nice when you can find those things that are a real treat, and finding replacements for things that we once loved that we know are punishing us and hurting us is a really good way to do things. Finding those replacements. I have a new blog post coming out that talks about, and we've talked about this before, but finding good candies in place of the candies that we've grown up with and grown to love, is finding the healthy replacements for them, which I have done. And I have to be careful because I know what those healthy replacements are. They're better for me. They're okay for me. That's where I struggle sometimes with the willpower, is I know I can have them and they're really good, but still, if I have too many of them, there is a repercussion. And I've just got to be careful there, because sometimes when you don't allow yourself to have things and then you have found something, you've got to be a little careful that you're not binging. And I've caught myself on that. Shelly says, I read that one already. She says, making a dairy-free vanilla pudding with chia seeds so I can eat some raspberries on top. I have blackberries and blueberries and a vanilla no sugar ice cream, and I am like so excited. That's going to be my dessert tonight. So yeah, doing those things, and eating the fruits and vegetables that are in season is really smart. I absolutely love doing that. I'm trying not to get too excited. My tomato plants had flowers. I was hoping for fruits. It was too hot. They withered, but I've got new flowers again. So I might have fruits now. And if that is the case, that's great. But it's so late in the season, it's going to be, I'll be lucky if I get anything remotely colored other than green. But I can still make fried green tomatoes or green tomato jelly. So it won't be a waste. Let me see here. Miss Kelly says, I don't eat big meals, rather several small meals, healthy choices, and I do much better. Yeah, that's how my body works best too. It's just when there's too much food, it's just a burden to digest, and we're all made different, but that's exactly how I feel, Kelly, is just smaller meals, eating when I'm hungry, and stuff like that, and I managed to really regiment myself nice. It's listening to our bodies. Jane says, I've never really liked eggs, never had an issue until the past year. Huh, that's interesting. Wonder what the shift was. Are they fresh? I'm sure they're fresh homegrown, home-laid eggs. Kelly says, Shelly just ate fresh raspberries and homemade yogurt. Yum, yum, yum. Shelly says, I cannot have dairy. This is my version of some dessert. Found the recipe today and we'll see how it is. Nice. Yeah, it's nice finding those replacements and finding things we can have in place of the things we aren't able to have. I spent the last 11 years doing that with the Mountain Boy. Well, actually longer than that. And then again with myself, because I was limited to the types of foods I could have and what my body would tolerate after being sick. So I've got maybe 2 handfuls of things that really I do really well with and that taste good to me, and playing around with those in variation helps a lot, and coming up with new things. Jane says, I picked up a few quarts of blueberries at the farmer's market Saturday, dipped some in yogurt, freeze on a sheet pan, then put in a container. Nice. Oh, nice. So you dipped them in the yogurt and then froze them. That's a good idea. Kelly says, I will dehydrate some raspberries for you, or can freeze them if you make it this way. Oh, nice. Nice, nice. I love fruit. I love fruit and I love vegetables. And you know, I've shared with you guys before about the Thrive Life. That's something that we purchase. And like a can of broccoli, I love just opening that up and eating it freeze dried just out of the can. So those sometimes are my snacks. So if you're new to Thrive Life, you can go to TrailWilderness.com/Thrive Life and check it out. Shelly says, if you dehydrate your blueberries and when added to yogurt, there is no juice on top of the mix that can stain clothes. I believe that. Kelly says to Jane, great idea, going to try that. Yeah, that's a good idea. You know, I also like to dip things in carob, and I also make a carob chocolate mix, so it's not all just straight chocolate. But that's a good idea. Might have to try that, because I love the fruit. The fruit is just so good. Blueberries are a great antioxidant. I love it. So there's links in the description below for all kinds of things. They're in there from last week, so I haven't really added any new ones. I did want to re-mention the Creating Balanced Health. I just feel that is so important for people that are trying to get their health in check and are unable to, or are trying to get answers and can't, that I find that to be a really great tool. Sorry, everything is like falling here. There we go. I feel that's a really great tool to get a good analysis on things. It is a hair and saliva testing analysis, and they are a fabulous company to work with. So creatingbalancedhealth.com, and you can use coupon code TRAILWilderness. And the other thing I want to mention is if you are dealing with PTSD, autoimmune diseases, chronic pain, chronic illness, retraining the brain can be a really good avenue to take if you are looking to remove those things from your body, because you can actually retrain your brain to remove those things. I have rid my body of PTSD, of Lyme, of MCS, as well as pain, chronic pain, and it's really very awesome. I did that, and I will be doing it again, just to see if it makes a difference. But it's a 3-day process, and then it's a 6-month process to continue to be aware and keep your brain on the right pathway. But it's pretty awesome, and I highly, highly recommend that. So let me see here. Shelly says dehydrated raspberries crumbled on top of ice cream or on top of muffins will leave a crunchy topping. Yum. I love putting nuts in things. I really like nuts. Walnuts, almonds, cashews, pecans. I love putting them in things. I also like using flax meal and putting that in yogurt, or even in my rice or pasta when I'm cooking it up. That is a really good additive, really healthy for you. Kelly says, have zucchini already running out of out our ears. We'll we'll dehydrate some tomorrow, and we'll grate some and freeze. Zucchini bread is a favorite. I love zucchini. You can use zucchini for so many things. You can stuff it, you can slice it and fry it, you can bread it and fry it, you can, oh my goodness, do so many things with zucchini. And it's so great for so many different desserts and drinks. Juicing it is really good. Jane says, Laura, yes, my hubby's the same weight as he was when we met. If you'd see my groceries in the cart, you'd be thinking I eat all the trash. He's bad. I believe it. It's so funny. Guys' metabolisms are so much higher typically, although they hit a point that sometimes that shifts. But typically, if they have a really high metabolism, they keep it. And your guy's active like Glenn, so I'm sure, you know, that plays a big role in it too. They're burning so many calories. Shelley says, I think that a quarter cup of dehydrated zucchini is equal to 2 cups when rehydrated. Wow, that's a lot. Carol says, I have courgettes and Parmesan cheese with my pasta. Yum. You know, when we were talking about seafood, shrimp is another one that I absolutely love, but it needs to be wild caught. And when you said about in your pasta, I love adding shrimp on occasion. I can't tell you the last time we did that, but I used to love doing that. Shelley says chocolate zucchini cake uses 2 cups, the favorite in our house. I believe it. That's yummy. I love chocolate zucchini. Jane says, oh, Carol, yum. I know, I'm getting hungry. I'm getting hungry and sleepier only because I'm just like ready for a nap. Been a long couple of days. Laura says zucchini noodles with pasta sauce. Oh, yes. Miss Diana is in the house. She says, for great uses for zucchini, check out the 1870s Homestead on YT. I will have to do that. Yum. And how are you, lady? Praying for you. Kelly, is there an update on Bobby? Been praying for her as well. And I want to read something to you guys before I forget to do that. Kelly says to Laura, I'm going to get a veggie noodle maker. Yeah, they're so nice. I spent like $10 on one. It's definitely worth having. Definitely worth having. Something else I like to do a lot is deep fried onions. So what I'll do is I'll make Indian fry bread and then deep fry some zucchini or onions. Have that dipped in some good homemade ranch dressing. Yep. So Jane says, shrimp on the Barbie with zucchini, onions, and mushrooms. Yes, ma'am. Oh, man, you guys are making me hungry. Diana says, thanks for the prayers. We're going to try a brace. Should arrive on Wednesday. So the brace is for your shoulders or your arms, sister? And you said both were giving you trouble. So are you just doing one brace at a time to see? We'll continue to pray. And how did you make out with your phone call on Monday? Hopefully that was successful. So it sounds like this might be a good read for today. It really stood out to me. It's Psalms 121:7. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. And then it has Exodus 14:13. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring. Let's look at Jehovah Nissi, the Lord my banner. It isn't easy to hand our battles over and let God fight for us. We feel like we're copping out or being irresponsible. Popular thinking says, don't just sit there, do something. We're like the drowning man who can't stop grasping at his rescuer. We can imagine they need our help, and as a result, we end up making their job almost impossible. The truth is, we become their worst nightmare. But just because God fights for us doesn't mean we're not involved. The hardest part about the order, stand still and watch the deliverance of the Lord, is we mistake standing still for doing nothing or being derelict in our duty. Fear says just do something. Faith says stand in faith. Let God do it. That's about as far from doing nothing as you can get. It's faith at its highest. So how come we need spiritual armor? Sorry, guys. Finger slid too far. So how come we need spiritual armor if we don't do the fighting? Good question. Paul said, put on the full armor of God so you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Notice you wear his armor, not yours. You're to stand, not fight. The weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh. That's 2 Corinthians 10:4. Human methods get in God's way. Natural abilities are useless against spiritual forces. The grub of the dragonfly at the bottom of the pond may be a well-developed, vigorous grub, but once it becomes a dragonfly, the strengths of its grub life won't help it to live an airborne life. Whereas we once trusted in our own human efforts, now we trust only in Jehovah Nissi. So, faith at its highest. I read that today because I had some conversations over the weekend, and then that really stood out to me. That was from the 19th, which was what? That was today's. And it was very timely. The conversations I had over the weekend were of people being fearful to give it all to God, or not knowing to give it all to God and trusting in prayer. And I would love to know how many of you are afraid to give your struggles to God because you lose control of them. That's the first question. And then, how many of you put on his armor and trust that he's going to fight the battles for you? You know, so often in our lives we have lots of battles, and we don't realize that God's the best source for fighting those than we are. Our instant reaction as a human is to want to jump in and to fight. And I think it's important that we realize that when we give things up to God, he fights them in his way and in his terms and in a more Christian-like manner, because our flesh takes over sometimes. But the other thing is that people don't realize that God is there to answer your prayers, to step in when we are weak, because he is strong. And we have to remember that. And the conversations I had over the weekend, my heart was really aching for people, because they're trying to do it all themselves, and not having that relationship and not allowing God to step in. And so often in my past, when I would hand things over to God, I would take it back right away. And it's really important that we realize that by giving it up, we have such a greater opportunity for God to really make a difference, a much greater difference than we could ever make. So you guys have been busy here. Let me see. Kelly says Bobby won't have a scheduled court date until October, and she cannot have visitation, even though CPS says they didn't say she couldn't, and the court says the same. It's so frustrating. Oh my word. That it is really sad. It's very sad and very frustrating, and we just need to we're going to keep getting on our knees and praying for her that there is a break in this scenario. Diana says, for my shoulders, it can be used on both. Awesome. So, and hopefully through this, you haven't been experiencing that they're both sore at the same time, because that certainly is debilitating. And I know you have been debilitated quite a bit here with this. So, if everybody could continue to please pray for Diana, I would greatly appreciate that, as well as Bobby and her circumstances. Shelley says all the damage that the CPS is doing to those children by preventing them from seeing a mother that loves them and has not done anything wrong. So backwards. Yeah, the one conversation I was having this weekend was very similar to that, and it's such a shame to see what is happening in our court systems and in with CPS and just all these things that have failed and that are failing and that are not being corrected. It's just it's heart-wrenching. Good afternoon, Mr. Chad. I hope you are feeling so much better. You are in our continued prayers, and if you guys would continue to please pray for Chad, I would so appreciate it. Awesome. Shelley said she hopes that she's praying that you're feeling somewhat better. Kelly says, need to go. Mike's home and I need to get supper on the table. He's working on the swather. It broke down while trying to swath hay late yesterday. Blessed he can fix it himself. That's awesome. But praying for him in this heat, that's terrible. But no worries, sister. I'm glad you were able to join today. You've been so heavy on my heart and on my mind. I was going to message you after I was done here, and I will probably do that anyway. But I'm glad you were on here. Have a great evening. All of you guys give each other hugs for us. We love you. Kelly says, good chatting with everyone. Blessings for your week and prayers lifting. Awesome. Everybody's saying goodbye. I love you guys. You guys are just so on top of things. Jane said, it's like picking and choosing what parts of the Bible to read and follow. Yep. Exactly. And it's important that we realize that when we obey, like his method, his plan, his desires are set forth in his word for a reason. And when you follow that plan, ultimately, sorry, the old man's under the table and he's stretching and moving the table with him. Ultimately, we are walking out in a much better fashion. When we try to do things on our own, we're unproductive and we get stuck in those bad processes that aren't working for us. So when we learn to follow his plan, like a perfect example of that is following the plan for a marriage. So often this is an area that's taken way out of context and torn inside out and upside down. But when you follow God's plan for a marriage, it's that both husband and wife submit to one another equally, and that we treat each other like the church, and that we treat each other how God wants us to treat him, that we are loving to one another, that no one is greater or better than the other, and that we support each other. When you follow that and his biblical methods on that, marriage is an amazing thing. But when taken out of context and seen that the woman is supposed to submit, that can be taken so extremely out of context. And then the other part is completely missed, that the man is also supposed to submit and treat the wife like the church. So again, when you follow his plans and his guidance and his word, it's solid, it's true, and there's a purpose behind it. It creates a loving and productive and supportive process, regardless if it's following the words on marriage or whether it's following the words on prayer and putting on our armor. So it's important that we follow his word and understand his word. Kelly says, Shelley, the CPS workers are so evil and have done nothing to help her or the children. They make money adopting children out, so think they are more like children traffickers, not to help. That is just disgusting, and it's so horrible. And they're tearing things apart and ruining lives. When we do things on our own, we are outside of his will, but his grace is more abundant than we know, and he provides for his children. Amen. Exactly, Chad. Exactly, Chad. Shelley says, that is so scary, Kelly. Pray it goes better soon. God will shine, and unfortunately I say unfortunately, but we're waiting on his timing. His timing is best. It's unfortunate for us, for our flesh brains, and how we perceive things. But God's plan is always bigger, better, greater, and unravels so much more amazing than we could have ever imagined. It's hard to imagine with these kids and, you know, Bobby's separation from these kids for it to be a better plan. But but the process that's going to happen here is that for future, not only will Bobby situation be resolved, but it will resolve all the others to follow behind her. So it doesn't make it any easier though, but we are going to continue to pray for sure. Jane says, not all CPS are bad. I fostered for years, teens. The kids I had all were removed from for valid reasons, and the money we were given to cover their care didn't even touch what we put out, but that's not why we did it. Right. And it is true. I mean, wherever there's bad, there's also people trying to do good. In this circumstance that Bobby is going through, the CPS that are involved there are on an extreme power trip, and it's really sad and very scary. And they are truly giving the other CPS a bad name. But luckily in the state of Montana, it is being heavily evaluated, you know, and there's scrutiny being put into all the CPS. And that's good because the bad will be uprooted and the good will be praised. So God will work it all out. And Jane is absolutely right. There are good CPS out there. And there are probably good attorneys and good judges too. But unfortunately, what we see most of is the bad. And of course, then that just puts everything in that perspective. But Jane is absolutely right. Laura says, yes, the husband is supposed to treat his wife as Jesus did the church, and Jesus died for the church. Exactly. And the woman is supposed to submit to the husband and is supposed to support the husband. When it is equaled out on both sides, the end result is absolutely amazing. And that being said, when a woman is treated like the church, she will support and submit to the man. And the same is true on the flip side of that. So it takes our submission and our understanding of those verses to make that the perfect scenario. But we have to understand it, and we have to live it out and walk it out and be willing to see that through our submission on both sides is where it makes it the most amazing thing ever. And I see that being so true. I've walked out different, and I am able to see the truth in it in my relationship with the mountain man, and it's very awesome. Very, very awesome. So the biggest thing I want to say today is that the key thing is to have that relationship with God. And I challenged you back in January to take 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes a day, and spend time in His Word, writing down the things that you're grateful for, and praying. Prayer is our most powerful tool. And in the world today, with everything that's going on, we need to pray Him into everything. And we need to have that relationship and that communication. It's extremely important, and I can't specify that enough. I've been spending so many hours in the car over the last 5 days and thoroughly spending that time in deep communication with God, in prayer with God, and listening to His Word, and listening to really positive Christian material. And it's so valuable. It changes our lives. It changes our perspective. It keeps us where we need to be. It keeps us well-rounded. But it keeps us in that relationship. And that relationship is so priceless. You know, I don't remember if it was Monday of last week or Thursday, but we were talking about relationships and different things. And Keith had mentioned that his family was like mine, and he ended up moving across the world to get away from that, and that now they were deceased. And I jumped on that in because my mind went there, in regret, that when we experience regret in our life, that we don't want to stay stuck on that. It's just as deadly as unforgiveness. And then I started talking about having to give up my relationship with my earthly father, who I treasured the relationship with, but became very toxic as a result of my mother. And then suddenly I zoned and I couldn't remember where I was going with it. And I was kicking myself later in the day because it came to me in my think tank when I was in the shower. That heat penetrating my brain brought it back. And I wanted to touch on this. I did pin a post on that video. But you know, something that we need to realize in those situations when we don't get the opportunity to offer our apologies or to receive forgiveness, you know, that we're seeking, or to have that relationship that we've sought after. Instead of staying stuck in those places of wishing for those things, we need to realize something. And it's something that's so powerful and so amazing. And that is that we already have that. And that our Heavenly Father forgives us. Our Heavenly Father will never leave us or forsake us. And He loves us. And that was what I wanted to share last week, was because through the loss of my earthly family and even friends at that exact same time, it was very devastating for me and very hard to process. It took me about a year to process all of those losses. All of those losses to me were like actually burying them. It was like physically, it was like mentally going to their funeral and truly losing them was what it was like. And through that process, I realized that God was with me all the time, and that God will always be with me. And that even though I may not get apologies from people on this earth that I was expecting, or that I may not have that wholesome relationship that I always sought, or even if I have regrets in life that I wished I had done things, I truly believe that God has purpose in everything, and that we weren't always supposed to do those things, so we can't have regrets. And that sometimes those things that we wish for weren't really supposed to happen on this earth for whatever reason. But His love for us and His connection with us and His relationship is so powerful and replaces all of that. And when we seek that over everything else, it kind of trumps everything that's missing. And I just wanted to share that because I know that there's many other people out there that are following this and listening to it after the fact or joining me live that have lost close family members because they've had to walk away from them. And I just want to encourage you today to understand that if they didn't love you or that they didn't see your value, God does. And that's what we got to hang on to. There are a lot of hurting and messed up people in this world. And because of their hurts and their experiences, they become bitter and unyielding. They don't know how to love. But God does. And I just wanted to end on that note because those were really powerful words that I wanted to share that didn't surface the other day. And I felt the need to surface them today. So I hope that that helps somebody out there. Because we don't want to live in a place of unforgiveness or regret. And we don't want to live in a place seeking an apology that may never come. We just need to be seeking God. And God will fill us with peace and joy and happiness and fill us to the point that those things no longer matter. That's what happened for me. And I want to just encourage that in you. It's so much better to seek that than to seek the other. Miss Carol says, sorry, guys. It's going on 1 a.m. here. I got to get to bed as I'm on Lorenzo's school run tomorrow. Oh, boy. Love you, sister, and love you, sweet lady. Have a good sleep, and thank you for taking the time to join us at such an odd hour. I love you. Praying for you. Give Lorenzo a hug. All right, guys. I am going to let you all go today so that you guys can get back to your day and I can go take a nap. But I'm going to say a quick prayer here. Papa, I just thank you for this time. I thank you for loving all of us. I thank you for giving us courage when we need it and strength when we need it, and for giving us your word that directs us and guides us. May we just continue to seek you and find you, and may you replace everything that we've been looking for, sometimes in the wrong places. Sometimes we're looking for things that other people can't give, but you can, and you are a provider, you are a healer, you are a lover, and you love your children. And I just ask you to wrap your loving arms around everyone present and everyone that's watching the replay. Just ask that you keep everybody safe, guide and direct their paths this week. Keep everybody safe and healthy, and just put healing hands on those that need it, and just guide and direct our minds, and just help us to continue to seek you in everything we do. Thank you for this time together. Thank you for loving us. I just lift up all the prayer requests to you. Bobby stands out in my mind. I just ask that you just continue to work there, bring out the evil, reunite she and her family, and just make it happen soon. I know that you will protect those babies, and I know that you will protect her, and I know that the outcome will be bigger and better than we could have ever imagined. Be with Mike working on the swather. Be with Chad, help touch and heal his body. And be with Jane and Shelley as they're still seeking medical answers. And be with Laura and Mill as they're progressing in their healing. And I know there was another prayer request. Two prayer requests I'd like to lift up to you today. 3 actually is just to keep a hand on the mountain man while he's working this new job. Also, be with Mama T and just help her to find relief in her pain. And also be with my dear friend Courtney and just touch her life, strengthen her, and just give her, she and Preston, an opportunity, and just be there with them and help them and reunite them. And just thank you for what you're going to do in our lives. Thank you for the abundance you're providing for each of us and in our community. And thank you for what you're doing here in this community. We love you, and we ask all of this in your holy and precious name of Jesus. Amen. Okay, guys. Whew, it seems to be getting hotter and hotter. Miss Deb says, thanks, Tammy, and all for this wonderful time together. Blessings all, and amen. Amen, and love you, girl. Have a good week. I will see you guys on Thursday. And join us in the community, TrayerWilderness.com/community. We look forward to having you there and being able to chat with you. Miss Laura shared pictures of her homestead, which were absolutely awesome. I didn't get a chance to respond, but they were awesome. Thank you for sharing. And also be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel here. We are making a great effort to make a difference this year, and would love your help in that journey. So if you like what you're listening to, help us out there. Thank you. Miss Deb says, rest well and enjoy your nap. I'm going to. I think I'm halfway there. All right. Love you guys. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and God bless.